Do you feel like there is not enough time in a day? There are days where I sometimes wish for 48-hour days. Welcome to the Conquer Your Mountains Week 6 podcast titled The Single Biggest Reason Why You Don't Have Enough Time, where we will explore how you can create time where there seems to be no time. Today's episode is about expanding your day so that you can complete your goals. If you are following the Conquer Your Mountains reading plan, you are in week 6 that has the name Joshua, Setting Time Aside. My name is Amanda Witt, and I'm an editor at Luca, the Christian and inspiration imprint of Penguin Random House South Africa. We publish books that provide readers with engaging, high-quality reading material, both fiction and non-fiction. I'm excited to be joining Mandla's podcast today. Together, we worked on his book, Conquer Your Mountains, that was released in 2023. Mandla holds a doctorate of business administration in healthcare management from Liberty University, USA. He is a qualified chartered accountant with a master's degree in commerce. He has been a CEO and financial director of businesses that have served thousands of people in healthcare and wellness. In today's episode, we will be exploring questions like how to get more done in less time. Let's kick off. We all struggle with time, Dr. Mandla. What are the things that you are typically juggling in a week?
Yeah, sometimes it feels like I'm carrying a planet on my shoulders. My work is fairly intensive. I've got two main jobs. The one is that I'm the CEO of a medium-sized company in the health and wellness environment. And then I'm also the financial director of a health insurance company. And there's a long story to how I got to have two jobs, but that's who I am. And in addition, I'm the director of two nonprofit companies, and that has requirements from time to time when those boards meet. And on the family side, I'm a father of two and married. And my other time commitments are exercise. I try to run 3 to 4 times a week. And most weekends I'll try to enter a race as well, 10Ks. 15Ks, 21Ks are my favorites. I also attend church, and there's two congregations that I'm involved in. And the other thing that comes into my day is writing. As you know, with the books that we've been working on for the past 2 years, writing does take time, not only in terms of preparing to write a book, but the actual process, the editing, the checking, and getting to a final print version, and then marketing the book. So quite a lot happening in my typical week.
Quite a lot indeed. That is a jam-packed schedule. Do you get to everything on your list by the end of the week, or do some things fall behind?
Sadly not. I'd be lying if I said I get everything. I get to about 75%. You know, when your alarm is ringing and you press snooze, there's quite a lot of things where I end up having to press snooze. And it might be that I get to the end of the week and I realize that there's some meetings, some conversations or emails that I've got no way of resolving this week. So I've got no choice but to move them to the next week. Some things I just never get to. So, for example, if I miss a running session, when you're sick and the doctor says if you miss a dose of tablets, don't take double the next time.
Absolutely. Good advice.
Yes, yeah. So I think that's how it is with my exercise. Sometimes I'll miss something and you can never make it up. But hopefully you can try and run faster or further the following week.
Would you say you have a specific system to prioritize what is more important and what can be snoozed?
Yeah, I've got a system that's evolved over time based on my own preferences. When things come by, I try and deal with them as quickly as possible. So there is not prioritizing. It's more saying if I've got 50 emails that have arrived today, let me just try and get through most of them. And then when I get to the end of that day, there'll be some things that I can't handle. And that's where I sit back and prioritize to say, is this really important? Can this be left alone? And if it's really important, I'll make a note of it so that the next day I'll start with the most important items. I did try doing a to-do list, but that didn't work for me. I know it works for many people, but my to-do list just got longer and longer, and it ended up overwhelming me when it was now 3 pages. I prefer this approach now of dealing with everything that's current in the moment and then working on a priority list for things that I can't get to.
Well, that sounds like a great idea. I once heard that you should add to your to-do list, create a to-do list as one of the little items, so that you can at least tick that off and feel some accomplishment. We all have 24 hours in a day, and yet some people seem to have more time than others. Why is that, would you say?
I'd say time is relative, and I'll use an analogy based on rugby, because in South Africa, we are all crazy about rugby, and to be frank, we dominate the game globally. So if you think of the last 3 minutes of the Rugby World Cup final, those last 3 minutes seemed like an eternity.
Absolutely, they did.
Yes. And you're watching the final play and you're like, when will it get to 80 minutes? And can someone just get that ball and kick it out? It felt like things happened in slow motion. And even when star kickers were doing the final conversions, you watch that ball leave the boot and sail up, and time seems to freeze. And you're like, will you make it or not? Then you compare that time to 3 minutes that you spend on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or whatever social media you're on. Those 3 minutes are not comparable. The 3 minutes in something that's action-packed, where you're deeply invested, seems a lot longer than the 3 minutes where you're literally just passing time, scrolling videos. Some people can seem like they've got more time in a day because they just use that time in a very different manner, and they've got a different attitude in terms of what that time means for them. And it also varies based on the season of your life. So when I was working on my doctorate several years ago, I had to create an extra 20 hours a week on top of my existing schedule. I became so desperate to find time. The time where you arrive home and you idle before eating supper, I'd say, oh, let me squeeze out 30 minutes here. I can at least do half an assignment. And the funny thing is, when I finished my doctorate, it seemed like that 20 hours that I'd created per week disappeared. And I was like, oh, wow, that time just went because I had no need for it. So it's really understanding that time is relative and you can manipulate it according to what you want to achieve.
That is a very interesting notion, that you can, by applying focus to time, actually stretch it, and by not applying focus to it, you can waste it. That's a very important lesson I think we can all take from this. What do you think is the single biggest reason why we don't have enough time? A lot of people complain that they have so much to do, there's so much that they want to do, but they just don't have the time. What would you say is the reason for that?
Before I get to that answer, I'll start with a story. It's an ancient warrior. His name was Joshua. What happened one day is him and his army were fighting a battle. The sun was setting and they were running out of time to complete the battle. And obviously in battle, if you've got an advantage and you don't press on and close the advantage and you let the enemy escape, you could lose the battle if you wait for the next morning. And in that story, he prayed for the sun and moon to stop so that he would have extra daytime to finish the battle. His prayer was answered and the sun delayed going down by about an extra day. In that story, he created time, he asked for time to be created. So that's obviously something that we can't do. We can't make the sun and the moon stop for us to finish what we need to do. So if we assume that we can't wait for supernatural events to give us 48 hours in a 24-hour day, there's things that we can use. We can use time audits, we can do time management courses, we can do focus techniques, we can learn how to manage distractions. But those things, they'll shave away some of the time losses that you're experiencing. But you might find that you still might not have enough time, even if you do all of those time management tools. And I think the reason is that you can be in a situation where you're letting time control you. The converse is that there is a way that you can stop time and control it instead. And let me give you an extreme example. Let's pretend you found out one day that you had exactly 1 year left to live. And you also found out that you don't have extra money. So it's not like you can go on holiday for your last year of your life. You still have to keep working, and you still have to keep exercising and stay healthy, because you're told that if you stop exercising, the 1 year that you have in your life will be less. And obviously, in that last year of your life, you also want to connect with friends and relatives. I think if you had that diagnosis of you've got 1 year left, it would be amazing how much extra time you'd create just from not wasting time, just from being hyper focused. And I think the key there is that you've taken control. In summary, I think the single biggest reason why you don't have enough time is that you have allowed time to control you when you should be controlling time. And a lot can happen when you start controlling time, when you start valuing time. We can win a World Cup in 3 minutes. Or if we look at the famous martial arts match that we saw recently, you can win a title belt in 3 minutes. A lot can happen when you start to really value each and every minute and you control it according to what you want to do rather than time controlling you.
Definitely. I can gather from what you said as well, and it's made me think about the fact that time is a non-refundable commodity. It's something that once we've wasted it, we can't get it back. Seconds gone are seconds gone. How important would you say is managing our time effectively in our journeys to reaching our commitments and our goals in life?
Time is the single biggest thing that you need to manage. In the financial world, everything revolves around time. So, for example, you put money in a bank, and over time, that money will grow in value, or you'll invest in a stock, and you wait, and based on the passage of time, value is created. So, if you look at those examples, the journey of creating value, the journey of achieving goals is so dependent on how well we manage the time that we have available to achieving those goals. And if we don't have that capability of controlling time, we massively lose the ability that we could have of achieving success.
So this is definitely an achievable skill and something we should aim to work towards in effectively managing our time. Thank you, Dr. Mandla. As we come to an end, speak to the listener that is battling so much with time that they feel that they're literally drowning. What advice do you have for them?
So I was just thinking that in a week, you have 10,000 minutes. And in those 10,000 minutes, if you work it out, you only spend 3,000 minutes sleeping, which means you've got 7,000 other minutes. What are you doing with those other 7,000 minutes? Yes, you could be working for, say, 4,000 minutes, but you still have 3,000 minutes. What are you doing with that time? Have you looked at that time and made sure that you're getting full value from the time that you do have available? And you'll find that if you look deeply enough, there's actually time that you can create, time that you can salvage that you thought was not available.
Absolutely. We can see where we can cut down on This was such a valuable lesson again for us today, Dr. Mandla. Thank you so much. We will end the podcast with an extract from Mandla's book, Conquer Your Mountains, week 6, and that's on page 33.
Sometimes we mean well and have the right plans, but we don't set enough time aside to allow God's work to seep through. You may have spent thousands of hours nurturing a bad habit, and now you hope to break the habit by just watching a short motivational talk. We often don't set enough time aside for the freedom that we need.